Hey guys, Eddie Costa here with Crash and Flow BJJ. I'm here with my good friend Adam Miller. He is the founder of Wrestling University. If you've checked out his YouTube channel, if you're learning takedowns for BJJ, check him out. And we're going to be talking today about looking to find your first BJJ gym. So this is a video for people who are thinking about starting jiu-jitsu, people who don't know how to find a right BJJ gym for them. We're going to go over some considerations that will be important in figuring out if it's the right place for you. So I think we were talking about this before, and the top two things that we think are most important is just going to be your ability to train there. So we were thinking about number one, location, right? So it's going to need to be probably within 30 minutes of where you live, give or take. We live in Michigan, everybody drives here, so 30 minutes is not super far. If you have a car, it's kind of standard for a suburban area. Maybe similar if you live in a big city, but 30 minutes is around the ballpark. I think we agreed on, people would usually go to a gym and actually visit frequently, because if you don't go often, you're not going to get very good at this sport. It takes time, it takes commitment, so we want to make sure that we're in the gym as much as possible, and the location is going to be a big deal.
100%. Yeah, if you have a couple gyms within 20-30 minutes of you, you should find 3 gyms in that travel range and check all of them out. But if you have a friend that's like, oh, I have an amazing gym, I love going here, and it's 45 minutes away or 35 minutes away, that's worth checking out as well. This is going to hopefully become sort of like a second home to you, somewhere you're spending many hours per week. So it's worth the extra drive. I drive 35-40 minutes to get to this gym, and it's totally worth it for me. I actually don't have a lot of gyms that are very close to me. So that 20 to 30 minute range is loose. You know, if it's a little bit further, a little bit closer, obviously go and check those gyms out too, especially if it's coming from a recommendation. Yeah,
and everything we're going to be talking about in this video is not a hard and fast rule. These are just things for you to think about in terms of whether it's a good fit for you. So kind of going off that, another aspect of it would be the class schedule. You got to make sure that the class schedule fits your schedule. If all of the class times are during the day and you work a 9 to 5, then this is probably not going to be the gym for you, since you're not able to go and train at those times. Or maybe there's specific classes you want to go to and they don't fit into your schedule because you're working during that time, or you have other outside obligations. So we want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of when the classes are. There are a lot of schools that do really early morning, some offer midday, some offer evening classes. It all depends on what you want to do. Our gym, for instance, here, they do 7 to 9 at night most nights. And then on Fridays, it's like noon to 1. A lot of people on Friday can get out for that hour and come here, but it's not realistic for everybody. So that'll be something that you need to think about in terms of how much you can actually attend the gym, because you want to be here around 2 to 3 times a week. That would be a good starting rate as a beginner, to start getting your feet wet, get your body used to grappling so that you can get over the initial soreness and actually start acclimating to the sport.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is that you should be making it a goal to be at class 2 to 3 times a week, and that's what choosing location and class schedule are really about. Because if you can't go at least 2 to 3 times a week, if you can't commit to that, it's probably not the time in your life where you need to be committing to learning jiu-jitsu. If you're going once a week, it's really hard to get good at anything when you're doing it just a one-off time per week, right? You want to have a consistent schedule. And along with your schedule brings us to the third point, which is in tandem with this, is do you want to do gi or no gi? So when you're looking on the schedule, you need to look at the schedule, and some of you watching this may not even know what those terms are. So how would you describe gi and no gi?
Yeah, so gi is the classic kimono. When you think of karate, taekwondo, all these things, these images people have in their mind when they think of martial arts, traditional martial arts, that's what you'd be wearing. So it's a very heavy fabric. It almost feels like a rope or like a towel around you, and it's designed to not rip. It's designed to be something you can grab onto and manipulate your opponent's body with. No gi is where you would be coming in and basically what Adam's wearing right now. So a rash guard, which is, you know, a tight-fitting compression shirt, as well as shorts, typically with no pockets, and that's all you would really need. And it's really up to you which one you want to do. Some people really like gi. I will say that gi is, I don't want to say it's dying, but the BJJ scene in terms of competition and bigger events that you can be a part of are becoming more and more no-gi, especially because it's more applicable to MMA, all these different disciplines. And a lot of people prefer it because you don't have to do as much laundry. There's a lot of issues with your hands and fingers from gripping onto gis too. So people have their different tastes. I think we were talking about this as well, and we kind of decided, like, if you are looking for a self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu and that's really what you're here for, you want to feel confident in defending yourself, you probably are going to want to go with no-gi, because nothing in no-gi is dependent on clothing, right? Some people will tell you, everybody fights in clothing, but the clothing in a gi is not really like clothing that people wear. Most clothing in fights is going to rip right away. Gis don't rip. They're like a towel, like a wet towel around your body. So I would say it's not necessarily a great argument for gi and no gi to just talk about how people are clothed, because you're going to have more than enough techniques in terms of self-defense that you can use with just no gi, which doesn't depend on any kind of clothing. You can wear clothes. The guy could be naked and your no gi would still work. Right. So we probably would suggest, if you want to do self-defense, then trying to find a gym that would have no-gi classes would benefit you.
There's some, if you're an older grappler watching this, a lot of older grapplers prefer the gi because it slows things down. You're basically covered in 1,000 handles. Like this robe that you're wearing, if you were to grip me with just this arm, you can only grip me in certain places when we're doing a grappling exchange. In the gi, this big cloth that you're wrapped in, the kimono, you can grip it anywhere. And when you start making contact with another grappler and practicing, that fabric between you really slows things down. It soaks up the sweat.
A lot of friction.
There's a ton of friction there. So if you're an older grappler and you're being encouraged by another older grappler to join their gym and try gi, that's something that I just want to let you know you can be open to. There's older grapplers tend to favor the gi. Yep. I mean, the older grapplers are in no gi as well. So it's not a hard line, right? Like, it's a little more athletic being in no-gi. It's a little more fast-paced, but it's definitely manageable for older grapplers. A ton of older grapplers do it.
Yeah, you could definitely try both. There's no issue with that at all. So that'll be just something that's up to you. Like we said, all of these things are just things you want to think about in terms of what you want out of your experience, why you're here in the first place, why you decided you wanted to do jiu-jitsu, whether it was to get in shape, self-defense, maybe you want to be a competitor. Maybe you just want to have fun and hang out with buddies and have a new hobby and make friends. That's all great. But all these things are just things to think about when you're looking for a gym.
And these first 3 points, so like choosing a location, knowing the difference between gi and no-gi, and letting that dictate what the class schedule you're looking for is. Because when you look at the class schedule, the school should decipher if the class is gi or no-gi. Okay? So and you can do this without ever visiting a gym, without ever calling a gym. You can do the first 3 filters that you're going to put through your search, and then you can narrow your focus down now to 2 to 3 schools that you actually want to go and visit. And that was the 4th thing on the list that we want you guys to check out, is what's the vibe at the gym. And we're about to go into a detailed list. It's not very long, but if you want to just have this in front of you when you make that phone call, Eddie made this really simple for you. You just grab a PDF from the link in the description in the pinned comment, and that way you can have all these questions we're about to go over just laid out in front of you. But all of these questions are related to this first question, which is, what's the vibe at the gym? And you can just straight up call the coach, call the school owner for the number listed on the website of the school, and just ask them, hey man, what's the vibe of the gym? Are you guys more hobbyist? Are you more competition focused? Is it friendly? Is it serious? This is going to help you get an idea of the most important thing for anyone looking for a gym, is just feeling and scoping out the vibe. Would you say that's?
Yeah, I would say that's true. I would say most places are going to give you a similar answer. They're going to say that they take the training seriously, but they have fun, and that they're a fun community to be a part of. And I think that's really a good answer. You're just looking. Honestly, I almost feel like this question is more of a search for a red flag, because if they just tell you they're just self-defense, a lot of times you're looking at like a McDojo situation, especially when they try to offer you self-defense techniques in a short time frame. They're like, you can take a 7-day class and learn self-defense. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to be able to do these things to protect yourself in some kind of high stress situation in 7 days. It needs to become natural to you over months and years of training. That's why we need you in the gym. We need to make sure that it fits your schedule, your location. It's easy for you to get there, because these things really take time to develop. And it's really fun. Like, don't get put off by the fact that it takes time. All good things take time. And jiu-jitsu is one of the best things that takes time. It's so fun to do. You guys will really enjoy it. But just know that it does take time. So if their answer is something along the lines of like a really short route to self-defense, I would say maybe think twice about visiting that school. You could still go and check it out, but a lot of times for me, that's something I'm a little bit wary of.
Yeah, they all good gyms and all good gym owners should give you roughly the same answer. There's going to be there's some variety in there, but like Eddie said, they're going to be like, it's a very friendly gym. Everyone gets along really well. We have mostly hobbyists, but we do have some competition people, some hobbyists who are more focused on competition. They take it a little more seriously, and you can roll a bit harder with these people, but generally it's a really friendly vibe, and that's really the answer you're looking for. If you're in a bigger city, you're going to run into more instances of schools being more competition focused it's just associated with bigger cities, major cities in the U.S. and abroad. You get more people, and then schools can take on harder themes. I've known of schools in the past that are strictly competition gyms, where it's like there's splits between competition classes and then hobbyist classes. That's pretty rare for the majority of you watching this. You're going to get that same sort of concrete answer of it being an even mix.
Yep. And before we even get any further into these questions, I want to mention that all good gyms are going to have a trial period for you. You'll be able to come in and test out the gym for maybe a week. Sometimes it's a month. But either way, you want to take advantage of those at each of these gyms and use up that trial period to really feel out firsthand how the vibe is for you, and see if you like the training partners, see if the training partners are high quality and willing to help you out, and just make sure that you actually utilize that trial period. If they don't offer a trial period, it's not necessarily an automatic no, but maybe ask why they don't do that. And also we can just check with some other questions that we're going to go over here that could help you gain some clarity on that.
Yeah,
so.
there's almost always a linear relationship between the more trial period they offer, the better the gym. So most gyms will offer you at least a week, right? Because if you go to, every class is different. Morning classes have a different crowd than the afternoon or evening classes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, each one of those days has different flavors of people. So different groups are showing up according to their own schedules. So it's not enough to go to a gym just once and think you really have an idea of the vibe at the gym and the people there. You should be try to exhaust that trial period. If you can go to as many classes as possible during that trial period, you're not paying for it anyway. You're there to get an idea of the gym and get your training started. So make the most of it. Try to get at least 2 to 3 classes within that trial period. I know some schools even give a month, right? They give a free month because they're so confident in the product that is their gym that they know you'll come back. And if you make it a habit of going for a month straight, then you're gonna be committed to that gym for years.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that trial period, as well as, you could do this over the phone, but there are certain things that you can use the trial period, or even just talking to the coach over the phone, to figure out about the gym. So some of these things that we wanted to mention were like, you want to ask them, are you allowed to spar as a beginner? Are they going to make you wait until, maybe 2 months in? Maybe they want you to take some beginner self-defense course before you can start sparring live with other people. I'm not going to say, I've been a part of gyms where they do that and they were still great gyms. I've also heard of gyms that do that and they seem really sketchy, honestly. So it's not a deal breaker either way, but it's up to you if you want that or not. Sometimes people want to get in and just spar right away, but they won't let them. If that's you, maybe that's not the right gym for you then. So in addition to asking about being able to spar right away, you want to ask them whether they have a focus on modern wrestling too. So if you want to be a well-rounded grappler, wrestling is kind of a non-negotiable, right? The sport is trending that way so much that if we don't know how to wrestle, especially if you're interested in self-defense, your jiu-jitsu is not very useful if you don't know how to wrestle. If you can't get somebody on the ground, then you're not going to be able to grapple them, right? So we want to make sure that they have some sort of wrestling focus. Maybe they have a wrestling coach. Adam teaches wrestling here. We have a couple days a week where we do wrestling. And we can also ask about techniques that are allowed for beginners. So usually this would be around like the leg lock area. So leg locks are something that some gyms feel that new beginners shouldn't be doing. They think that they're too dangerous. Our gym has no limits on what you can do right away. I prefer that. I would say if you're looking to be more serious, I would think it's kind of an important thing to be allowed to do all the techniques right away in a responsible way. Oftentimes, if they allow you to do it, that means that they're going to coach you through it and show you what to do, what not to do in order to be safe. There's very, very few moves that are inherently dangerous in grappling, and most of those moves are already banned at gyms. So if they're not allowing you to do leg locks right away, it could be just their preference, but if that's going to be something that bothers you, you definitely want to know about it.
Yeah, it's gonna give you, and as you're asking them these questions, you're looking for information, but you're also getting a vibe of the coach, right? If you just say, if you're looking off the PDF and you're like, okay, I don't really know what leg locks even are, but these guys in the video told me to ask this question, how they would even just respond is going to show you their temperament, right? Like if they're very sensitive about that question, these should all be easy questions, right? These should all just be like you just looking for information. So if you're like, hey man, I watched this video, they were kind of helping me learn how to figure this out, and I want to ask this question: do you allow leg locks in the school? And if they're like, no, absolutely not, it's to each their own. It's valid to have a strong opinion about just about anything, but that's letting you know the temperament of the coach. You're getting information just based on how they respond to these questions. But if they give you a nice, calm, relaxed, be like, you know what, we do let students do leg locks at first. We walk them through it. It has a reputation for being a more dangerous submission, even though it's not. Or if they give you the opposite opinion, but in the same tone, you kind of know the level of human being that you're dealing with here. Because like this is someone who you're going to be learning self-defense techniques from. So can you trust them? Does their temperament match your temperament? And look, if they explode and they get angry on you and you like that kind of coaching, then there's information for you too. This whole thing, you are looking for information, but you're also looking to gauge the coach and or school owner.
Yeah, you're just trying to make sure that it fits what you want, right? We're not going to tell you to go to some place or not go to some place. We're just giving you ideas to gain a better picture of what the gym's going to look like. So in addition to that, there are a couple of special considerations maybe. Like, let's talk about if you're a woman, it might matter to you whether there's a lot of women in the class, right? If you feel more comfortable grappling with other women, maybe when you're talking to the coach or when you show up for classes, get an idea of how many women are actually at the school. See if it's a place where you'd want to train. On the flip side of that, we also discussed if you are a woman and you're looking for self-defense, don't be hesitant to grapple with men, because in an actual situation, that's going to be the type of people that are attacking you typically. So you will need to be used to grappling with men and protecting yourself against men. And honestly, almost all the time at BJJ gyms, the men are going to be very helpful, very straightforward, and they're going to be respectful of the weight difference between you two, the strength difference between you two, and they just want to teach you and help be good training partners. So don't be scared of coming in to grapple with men. But if you feel like it's important to you that there's a lot of other women at the gym, definitely ask about that.
Yeah. That's my own sister was checking out gyms in surrounding areas, and she really liked 2 gyms, but one of the difference makers for her was the amount of girls at one gym in particular. She just liked the camaraderie, right? Like you might be a girl that likes more guy friends, so that might not matter to you, but a lot of girls like to just have girls around them when they're in that environment. It just makes them feel more comfortable. And again, this is something you're going to really gauge on a long-term basis over the course of a week, 2 weeks, or a month, really exhausting that trial period. Along with women, if you're an older grappler or a younger grappler, maybe you're a teenager, but you're going to be going to adult level classes, go to the gym. You can ask the coach on the phone, but also going to the gym, just make a note. Are there people here that I relate with? Are there people here that I connect with on a peer basis that are my same age? And again, this might not be something that's important to you. You may be a younger person, but you get along really well with the middle-aged or older grapplers. But just know that, because if it's not present and you don't feel comfortable, you may not even realize it's because, hey, there's really nobody here my age I can relate to. And I think size was another big one.
Yeah, size is kind of a big deal. So if you're a heavyweight, if you're 230 plus, it might be a factor whether or not there's other people your size, because sometimes it can be difficult to get training partners if they feel like you're so much bigger than them that you might hurt them. That happens with bigger guys. It's definitely a complaint that we see with even people at gyms I've been to. They think that there are people that avoid them because they're too big, and people get worried they're going to get hurt. Or it could be, if you're a smaller person, you want to make sure that not everybody at the gym is 230 plus, right? Where you're not going to be able to have any training partners in your same weight class to get a realistic feel of what things might be in competition, or just having different looks and different body types is kind of important. So these are just special considerations for people on a little bit more of the extremes in terms of body size, or maybe they're female. So we wanted to shout that out as well. We think that might be kind of an important thing to think about. But now that we've kind of gone over some of these preliminary questions, I think we also wanted to touch on some red flags
let's
with
do the
coaches.
red flags.
And I think one of the first ones we thought of was if it's ultra traditional. So you might be the type of guy that loves that stuff. You might think that it's super cool to be bowing to the sensei. You got to call the guy master. You got to only wear the stuff that he wants you to wear. We don't really like that stuff. If you do, that's fine. But most of the time, we feel that it's kind of detracting from your progress, and it's becoming more of almost like a culty situation. It can happen in gyms.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
a lot of times it'll be something like you got to call the professor, some kind of weird demeaning name like master,
Sensei.
yeah, just something weird where the guy is almost getting a power trip out of it. Or it could be a situation where you have to wear their merchandise. Like you're not allowed to come in anything except for their white gi or their rash guard, and you have to buy it from them. That's obviously comes off scammy. It comes off as like a pressure sales tactic.
Yeah.
Something that a serious competitive gym, or even a gym that's just has a good community, they probably won't have those things. So that's something that I would tread lightly with.
And there are a lot of, admittedly, I started grappling in LA, and there were a lot of very high-level gyms that you had to be wearing their merchandise to be in that gym. Very good teachers, very well run school. You just have to know, is this the vibe that I'm going for? Is this something that I like and I'm willing to do? I have a rebellious personality, so if I came into a gym and they're like, you have to wear this, I would be like, thanks for the information, I'll keep looking. But if you're like, man, that makes me feel like I'm a part of a team, it creates some kind of unity, go for it. This is this is just information for you to go on. But yeah, I agree with Eddie. It generally comes with other attitudes where they want you to be in line, they want you to behave a certain way, which, when we're on the mats, for sure, behave a certain way. But I've heard of gyms it's always gyms like this that make you buy the merch, where they even don't like what you're posting online a lot of the times.
Or you're not allowed to cross-train.
Yeah,
if you are not allowed to cross-train, that's a big red flag.
Big red flag.
Cross-training means that you're training at one gym, and you just go visit and get different looks with other people at different gyms. It's a great part of the sport. It's super fun. You will make a lot of friends going to different gyms. It's awesome. You can go to gyms all across the country, and people will welcome you because you're in a jiu-jitsu community. And if your professor or your instructor has a problem with that, I would honestly say just pass on that school. You don't need that, and you need good looks from everybody all around. That's how you gain knowledge. That's how you get better, and it's super fun. So I wouldn't sign up with a gym that's gonna deter you from training with other people. Oftentimes we think that that's a way to make sure that they don't get exposed for teaching you terrible technique. Because if they're teaching you really bad technique, they don't want you going to another gym, and then you realize that maybe another gym is teaching you a lot more effective techniques, and they'll lose students. So it's kind of a lazy thing on the coach's part, and
it's an insecurity for sure.
Insecurity thing, yeah.
Any good school owner wants to prioritize your improvement over everything. I've always been of the opinion, even with my personal coaching clients, I encourage them, go get coaching elsewhere, go seek coaching elsewhere, gather up as much information as you can, and if you find a better school or a better coach that's more fitted for you and your personality, stick with that person, or at least stick with them for a little while. And a good coach should never be offended by that because they're prioritizing your growth above everything else. If you're insecure about your product, your school, and your environment, then yeah, you're gonna constrict and you're gonna tell people like, oh no, don't cross train. Those people are traitors. That's a bad school. And talking down about other schools is often a trait of insecure coaches. You should really be trying to prioritize growth that's what you should be seeing from a coach.
Yeah, and talking about the coach as well, I would ask if the coach rolls. So, or just see if they roll in class. And this one we're a little bit split on because we both know of coaches who are really good coaches. Some of the best coaches in the world are coaches who don't roll. On the competition scene, like John Danaher, if you've ever heard of that guy. There's also a German fellow called Dima Miravani. He doesn't roll. But they watch their students and they're there every day and they know their students' game. So if they don't roll, do they watch you roll and intently learn your game and give you suggestions on how to get better? If they just don't roll and they don't pay attention to you at all, I would say you might want to look for another gym, because if he's the most experienced person in the room, he's the person that you theoretically should be learning the most from, right? And rolling with him is how you're going to learn the most, because grappling is not so much of a skill that you're going to learn just through somebody telling you about it. You really need to do it. It's like learning a language. You need to talk all the time. That's how you get good at grappling, right? So being able to actually roll with your coach is kind of a big deal. There are tons of coaches that do competitions. Our coach here is still a competitor. We roll with him all the time. But there are coaches that don't, and it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but just you want to understand why they don't. Maybe they have an injury. Maybe they're older now, but they still have a very sharp mind for the technique and they're keeping up with modern stuff, and they'll give you good suggestions, and that's fine. But it's definitely something you want to ask. If it's just for no reason at all, I would say that's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, and is the coach rolling or not, and are there students coaching at the school? That's another, it's a big red flag one way or the other. What do I mean by that? If it's all students coaching and the school owner or the resident black belt or brown belt, whatever the highest level belt is at your school, is it teaching as well? If it's one way or the other, that's typically a red flag. What you want to see is an even mix of the school owner or resident highest level belt teaching along with students who are also teaching. Because if students are teaching intermittently throughout the week, that means their students are progressing and are progressing to the point where they themselves are being entrusted with the school owner's reputation to teach other students. So it's a mainstay at any high level school that as new students start to get more experienced and gain knowledge, eventually any student that shows promise in teaching, because like teaching is tough. So if you're making progress to the point where you can teach, that's a really good sign. That's a really good sign for the school. But you don't want to see where it's all students or all coaches, right? Because that means you're not building a quality student base that can teach.
Yeah, yep. And then in line with this, I think that's most of what we wanted to cover with the red flags. Okay, so we went over some questions. I know that was a lot. If you want this organized for yourself, just check out the PDF that's in the link in the description. It'll be an easy way to just have these all bullet pointed out for you so that you can come in, call the coach, you can come in and ask, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you're actively thinking about the jiu-jitsu gym you want to be part of. And now that we've talked about all the ways that you can find a gym that you'll potentially like, let's get you ready for your next day. So check out this next video.